I'm Kara, and welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. I believe that all of us possess unique gifts and talents that allow us to serve the world and our own growth in the highest possible way. Our lives are an expression of our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And here, we will explore businesses, thought leaders, and topics designed to inspire, helping propel your own growth so you can live your best and most purposeful life. Welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. Welcome back to the Soul Inspiring Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Chaffin Donofrio, and today is a solo show. And I was actually inspired the other day because I was on a walk and I was in nature doing one of my manifesting walks that I've talked about on this show before. And I finally kind of got something, like truly just kind of understood it, a concept that I'd been learning and had access to for quite some time, but it just sort of, I started to feel it and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I actually went on Instagram and I posted a little thing about this and I thought I'd make a podcast out of it based on the response. So the idea today and the purpose of the show is to talk about this idea of coding things into your being and deciding what's true for you. Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we often talk about this idea of you creating your own reality and you having the ability to manifest things into being. And a lot of times it starts with, a decision on what you want. But this idea of coding things into being, it was first brought to me and taught to me by Jen Cudmore. If you can go back and listen to some of our shows together, we did an episode back in the very beginning, and then also our 100th episode. I shared we celebrated the show together since she's been my business coach and somebody that's really helped support this journey all along. But she kind of introduced me to this concept and of coding things into being, of coding things into your experience of what you want to happen for you, of deciding what you want for your life and then moving in that direction. But I didn't quite get it until now. And I'll explain to you kind of what I thought it was and also kind of how I see it now. And ultimately, with the intention of sharing it with you so that you can take it and make it your own and see how this kind of unfolds for you too. And so I think the first thing or the difference between like what's coding and what's manifesting and how do these things all work together, the way that I can really describe it is that coding something into what's true for you feels like you've become it, right? It's like an embodiment of how things operate for you. And versus manifesting, which is like you may manifest something or draw something closer to you. It's almost like the creation of it, but the coding is like how things just show up for you in your life. And so I'll give you a few examples to kind of help you see this because again, when I first understood it, it was more shown to me as almost like an affirmation. Like we had kind of worked through these kind of here are the decision points of what I would like to be true for my business and for my life. And it started with, well, I am coded to always create an abundance that, or always create a business that grows no matter what's going on in the market. So that's just how things show up for me. That's just how they are. And I think that when I first understood it, I may not have really believed it so much. It wasn't kind of like part of my being, but I think the act of speaking words into what kind of experiences you want to have for your life and for your business, I think the act of just putting these things into paper or onto paper, into words, brings more life to it. And so it started with, and I'll tell you, actually, I think it's still in my calendar, where, every morning I have these, I actually, for anybody that's watching on the screen, you can see in my calendar, I actually have something every morning that comes up at 8 a.m. and it says, I'm coded to. And then it has like the different things that I was trying to kind of code into my beingness, right? One of which was, I'm coded to understand what God and the universe needs for me at all times. That's just kind of how I operate. And another is that I'm coded to attract wealth and opportunities all the time. And so you could look at them as affirmations, I suppose, because in essence, that's sort of what it is. But I think what I've come to understand about it is it's much deeper than that. It's actually you deciding how things will show up for you. It's sort of a programming, so to speak. Like if you're going to program what you want to happen in your life, well, why not program just amazing things? And the act of having some type of practice where you can come back to these things and say, yeah, this is just how things show up for me. I'm coded to have a beautiful marriage and shiny connected children. That's just how things show up for me. And so what I kind of started out as understanding was I kind of thought of them as maybe more affirmations, so to speak. But now what I've come to understand is that this has been something that I've been doing for now, over 5 years. And so now what I understand to be true is that it's actually an embodiment of those things, of really a decision point to say, yes, this is how something's going to show up for me in my life. This is just how this is how I operate. This is how my business operates. This is just how, I operate in the world, so that when it allows you to do it in a way that feels much more grounded and at peace, because it's actually just sort of a knowledge or a homecoming of like, well, this is just who I am. This is just how things are for me. And what's the interesting thing about it is that, it's not something that just happened overnight, but there are some key things and ways to start it so that in time you too can experience this way of moving about the world. And the best way I can describe it is that it's a knowing. It's a knowing that no matter what happens or what's going on in the world, that my business will always expand and grow just because that's how I've coded it to be. I don't necessarily always know how things will show up, but because I know that I'm coded to experience success, then I see things through that lens, because that's just how things are for me, right? And I'm obviously using this as an example, me as an example, and how this has shown up, but that's how it could be true for you too, right? Once you've made that decision point of, this is how I stand in the world. And sometimes Jen will say, well, standing with like your sword in the ground, and this is who I am, and this is how things are for me. And there's still an element of, because I believe in God and because that's my true north, there's the element of knowing that I'm always supported. And again, I'm always supported and trust and have faith that I'm guided to where I'm meant to be at all times. But I also understand that I'm coding into being along with God, who always wants the best for me and wants to help me in my unfolding and my own evolution and growth. That, it's a co-creation process. And so even if things show up that maybe seem to be in disharmony with those coded beliefs, there is a knowledge or understanding that because it's true that no matter what happens, my business continues to grow and expand, I don't get so off kilter when something does seem to take me off, because I know that it's a temporary detour, because in truth, I'm coded to experience abundance and opportunities and success. And even when one door closes, another one just opens around the corner. And so again, this idea of coding your experience, it is a more grounded way of being in the world, because it's where you're firmly planted, because it's what you've decided to be true in a way that is not based on what the needs of others, but it's a true, how do I want things to unfold for me? Not because I see some shiny object or because I'm online and I see this other person doing this other thing. No, I can see that person and take the grace from that, but still know, well, this is how I operate. This is how things unfold for me. I don't need to chase the things, because I rest in the knowledge that I take action with intuitive flow. I understand that when I'm in that rootedness of knowing that things always unfold in a positive way, even when it looks like they're not, I will not be so, again, knocked off course by the unexpected. And I can take the good and the grace and the learnings of that, and then quickly pivot back to what I know to be true for the way I'm coded to be, right? And so hopefully this makes sense, because this is sort of I jotted down some notes on how to really describe this into being. And I guess that, again, the best way that I can distinguish it between that and manifesting or co-creating, because it really is sort of both, but it's more of a groundedness in just the truth of you. It is an embodiment of your own sovereignty, an embodiment of who you are meant to be in this world. And it also starts with a few key things. So it starts with some decision points. And I think when you think about, well, where do I start? I think about, and I'll take you back to my path, starting 5 years ago, of starting to think about, well, how did I want things? How are things going? And how did I want them to shift? And what did I want to be true? And again, I'll speak into life some of the things that I wrote down and that are literally in my phone, in my calendar right now. And that's that I'm coded to understand what God needs for me at all times. I'm coded to earn X amount per month on my way to earning a higher amount per month, all in God's time. And I'd allow you to fill in your own numbers for you. It could be 5,000 a month. It could be 100,000 a month. It could be $1 million a month. Whatever that looks like for you, you're coding that into being. I'm coded to attract wealth and opportunities at all time. I'm coded to always be upgraded and up-leveling into the highest and best version of myself. I'm coded to experience incredible success and grow my income and business no matter what's going on in the market. So again, when there's temporary shifts or when there's things happening, I know that it doesn't mean that, just because it's true for others, it's not necessarily true for me. And so, because I know how things show up for me, I don't have to be worried about the news or the media or all the distractions, because the truth is that for eons of time, there is so much manufactured fear in this planet, on this earth. And it will continue to be true for the next amount of time, that there will be manufactured fear that comes in, and hopefully less and less. But if we look at the truth of the world and how things have unfolded for centuries, we know that there's manipulation of media. We know that there's, the certain powers that are trying to manufacture fear as a mechanism of control. And so how do we live within that world? Well, we understand that, I'm coded to experience success no matter what is happening in the world, because this is just how things show up for me. And so the first decision point that you have to make when you start down this path and you start thinking about, well, what do I want to code into being for me? And I've given you some examples, is How do I want things to show up in my life? What things can I take an inventory of that maybe aren't working the way that I would like? And how do I want things to show up for me? How do you want this next season, this summer or winter, whichever season you're entering into, depending on where you are in the world? How do you want that next season to show up for you? What do you want to experience? Do you want it to be just delicious and lovely and abundant and amazing? And what does that look like? And so you kind of code that into being. You start feeling into what it would be like to be in that place. And starting with writing, again, decision point is, what do I want to code into my experience? And that really is the first key, because for so many, and I've coached, many agents and even people in different industries over the years. And one of the key things that I see that holds people back is that they don't spend time in the clarity piece. Everybody wants to jump to the shiny thing, but there is power in, and I think the true power lies in figuring out how you want things to show up for you, because you're not living somebody else's life. They're not living yours. So, let's stop the comparison game. Let's really think about, you've got this life to live, and how do you want to experience it? How do you want the people to respond to you? How do you want your relationships? What do you want those to look like? And so these are all the things that I think, start just journaling or scripting and figuring out what those are. Use some of the language potentially that I've given you, or create your own and start playing with it and figuring out, I'm coded to what, right? How do you show up in the world, and how do you want the world to respond to you? And that is this start of coding. And then for some time, there may be a time where it doesn't really feel true, or it feels, but I think that what we have to do, and I think part of this is maybe looking at, the world the glass half full, but start looking for, even when things seem to go awry, start looking for the silver lining that comes back around, and start trying to see the bigger picture and how things are unfolding for you. Start to realize what experiences you want to let go. Are there any relationships or friendships or just situations that just you leave and you don't feel good in? And if that's a pattern that happens over time, maybe it's time to start anew and to start creating new patterns. So first is an observation period of observing maybe what's working and what's not. And then the second piece is truly just taking some time to decide how you want things to be for you. And then here's the thing: decide. That's it. That's it. Just decide that this is true for you. As I mentioned earlier, and as Jen sometimes says, put a sword in the ground that this is how I am living my life. This is how I want things to unfold for me. I'm coded to experience this, level of success, or, I'm coded to experience love in the relationships that I surround myself with. I'm just coded to feel loved and appreciated with the people that are in my life, right? And start looking for those things too, because part of it is, again, it's deciding what you want and truly believing, deciding it, putting the sword in the ground, and let it be done. Let that be done. You don't have to do all this like other stuff. I do think that revisiting every day, what I've noticed is that, I started this 5 years ago, and it was maybe, and it doesn't have to take you this long, because time is an illusion and things can happen very, very quickly. For me, there were a lot of beliefs that I had to let go of. And I think that as I shed some of those maybe limiting beliefs, patterns from childhood on scarcity and money and other things, it took some time to get rid of some of those beliefs and shedding those. Um, but, again, as I was walking the other day and I was walking in nature and I just had this, it's like a wave kind of came over me and I was like, oh, that's what this coding is. That's what this feels like. It feels like a grounded sense of peace that wherever you are in the world, you are there. Wherever you are in the world, you are walking with your full energy, with your full sovereignty, embodying this being that you've coded yourself to be. And I think that's the benefit of coding. It's deciding, and then it's almost just believing it's true. It's understanding it. And sometimes that's easier said than done when things don't seem to be going your way. But there's practices of gratitude and all of those things, but I think a lot of it is really just coming back to, how do I want things to be for me? And then taking action towards those things. As the person that is always has these like genuine soul aligned people that just always show up, right? As the person that attracts that, well, how would that person be, in the world? Well, I'm sure that as the person that has these loving, amazing relationships, they'd probably also be loving in return. As the person that no matter what happens in the market, you're always growing and increasing your income and your business. Well, in a shifty market, are you going to be the one that's curled up in a ball, or are you going to be the one, as the person that always continues to grow and expand, are you going to be figuring out new solutions for how to be in the world when there's uncertainty, right? Are you going to be the person, as the person that always attracts opportunities? Well, because that's just who you are. Well, are you going to be, again, like in a room by yourself, but in a computer? Or are you going to be out in the world attracting the opportunities to you? So I think that's where the beingness of it comes into play, because not only are you coding in what you want, but you have decided to become that person. And as the person that's coded to do that, you show up in the world differently. So I hope this is helpful, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me. But I've loved sharing this with you. I, of course, always appreciate you listening and tuning in, and just sending you so much love. And really the intention is that you too can see how this could be true for you. And how can you take this knowledge and start to really use that in your own life? And I send you all the love and blessings to do just that. So until next time.
Loved being here with you today and would love to connect with you more over on Instagram. My handle is linked to the show notes, or you can just type in @Kara Chaffin Donofrio. And I have something special for you as a free gift, my Dynamic Life Journal. This special book has the power to really help you live a soul-inspired life. Go to freegiftfromkara.com. Easy to remember, freegiftfromkara.com. Until next time, beautiful people, sending all my love.